Some lies are so grand they shape the fate of stars. The stars shone cold, indifferent to the machinations of men. In the heart of the imperial palace, a figure moved unseen, yet his presence was heavier than the weight of the galaxy. He was whispered about, feared in silence, though none could name him aloud. Erebus, the Deceiver. His mind was a labyrinth of plots, his heart a crucible of ambition. Loyalty and faith were mere tools, and he wielded them with precision sharper than any blade. It began with subtlety. A word here, a suggestion there, a smile in the right moment, and entire minds bent unknowingly to his will. He moved through the halls like a shadow, observing the nobility and warriors alike, measuring their weaknesses, cataloging their pride. Even the War Master, towering and radiant, could not perceive the threads winding around him, subtle as the currents beneath a placid sea. Erebus's eyes fell on Horus Lupercal, the favored son of the Emperor, the jewel of the Imperium. The War Master stood in the Grand Hall, confident in his power, secure in the Emperor's trust. Yet Erebus saw the invisible cracks, the seeds of doubt waiting to bloom. Loyalty could be nurtured or poisoned, and pride could be molded into fire. Erebus knew that the galaxy itself could bend if only the right hand guided it. Obedience is a blade, and some men wield it blindly. He murmured, moving closer to Horus's council. His voice, soft yet cutting, reached the ears of captains and lords. Suggestions veiled as counsel, advice that carried not wisdom, but a subtle seduction toward ambition. Each listener left changed, unaware of the quiet alteration of their will. Beyond the palace, the fleet gleamed in orbit, a constellation of imperial might, its ships ready to carry men and war across the stars. Among the legions, a single word could ignite pride, a gesture, a doubt. To the untrained eye, these soldiers were perfect, disciplined, obedient, unwavering. But Erebus saw what they could not: the fragility beneath the armor, the fleeting human spark that once fanned could consume entire legions. He wandered the training yards, where the young Astartes drilled beneath the watchful eyes of veterans. Erebus did not appear as a master, nor a lord, but as a subtle guide, planting stories and visions that twisted loyalty into ambition. Each man left with questions lodged deep in their minds. Am I enough? Do I truly serve the Emperor, or merely the image of what I believe he wants? Seeds of doubt, small but persistent, were planted in their souls. Even among the Primarchs, there were those who sensed the quiet dissonance that clung to Erebus. Whispers of secret councils, decisions taken without consultation, eyes narrowed at his presence. Yet confrontation was impossible. His patience was endless, his purpose inscrutable. He was the whisper in the ear, the shadow at the edge of vision, a master of influence beyond understanding. As night fell over Terra, the Emperor's throne world glimmered beneath a sky studded with stars, cold and uncaring. Erebus's mind worked tirelessly, threading ambition into the hearts of men, bending pride into obedience that would one day burn. He watched Horus sleep, dreamed, or perhaps merely pondered. It was impossible to tell. A subtle nod here, a gentle caution there, and even the War Master began to dream of victories that were not yet his, of powers he did not yet understand. And then, the Deceiver stepped outside, onto the balcony, overlooking the endless spires and flame-lit streets below. The air was crisp, heavy with the scent of metal and ozone. He imagined the Imperium, vast and eternal, and smiled. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for the exquisite precision of his plan. One man's trust could unravel worlds. One whispered lie could topple empires. The stars were indifferent, yes, but they did not know him. No one did. And that, he thought, was the greatest advantage of all. The city of Terra slept under a shroud of cold stars, unaware that the course of the galaxy was being rewritten in whispers. Erebus, the Deceiver, moved silently through the corridors of power, his mind a forge of patience and ambition. Each calculated step was deliberate, each word a seed planted in fertile ground. Where others saw loyalty, he saw opportunity. Where others saw obedience, he saw a weapon. In the inner sanctum of the War Master, Horus Rising sat in quiet contemplation. He was a colossus among men, radiant, imposing, the jewel of the Emperor's favor. Yet even he could not see the subtle strings of influence winding around him, nor the careful design that Erebus wove behind every smile, every nod. The Deceiver watched Horus with an intensity that was both patient and merciless. Power is not seized, it is shaped, he thought. And the most formidable power is the one that is earned through trust. Erebus had already begun the work of molding the War Master's heart, bending it ever so slightly toward doubt and ambition. The galaxy itself would not bend under force alone. It would bend under belief, under the careful shaping of perception. Beyond the palace, the legions of the Imperium stirred, preparing for campaigns that would span star systems. Each Primarch trusted in the loyalty of their warriors, yet Erebus saw the truth that no one else could. Beneath the discipline, beneath the unyielding formations, lay hearts capable of doubt, minds capable of betrayal. One well-placed word, one subtle glance, one promise whispered in the dark could fracture the unshakable. He descended into the training yards, where young Astartes honed their skills with bolters, blades, and mental focus. Erebus walked among them like a shadow, speaking of courage and honor, planting seeds of reflection that twisted loyalty into something else. The boys left his presence, not with answers, but with questions. Are we the instruments of the Emperor's will, or are we merely the echoes of a future someone else has written? Such thoughts, once planted, could fester for years, shaping destinies in silence. Night deepened, and the Deceiver ascended to the highest towers of Terra, where the wind cut like blades. From this vantage, he saw the Empire spread below, glittering and fragile. He whispered to the stars, though they did not hear, "The galaxy bends not to strength, but to vision. The War Master will serve. The Empire will obey. and those who do not will be made to kneel. A shadow detached itself from the corner of his vision. It was a council of lieutenants, captains, and advisors, all drawn like moths to his flame. Erebus spoke softly, weaving caution with ambition, loyalty with pride, obedience with fear. Each listener left believing they had gained wisdom, yet all had been subtly guided toward paths they could not yet see. By the time they returned to their legions, the seed had taken root. The next day, the War Master convened his lieutenants, preparing for the campaigns that would carry the Imperium's might across the stars. Erebus lingered at the edges, silent, observing. He allowed Horus to speak, to give orders, to inspire. Yet every command, every strategy, every counsel offered was subtly shaped by the Deceiver's unseen hand. In the warmth of admiration and trust, the War Master's heart bent ever so slightly toward the shadow of doubt that Erebus had laid. In the courtyards of Terra, soldiers moved with precise discipline, unaware of the subtle currents shaping their destiny. Yet even among these loyal warriors, Erebus's influence spread like wildfire. A glance, a quiet word, a careful demonstration of an idea was all it took to plant the spark of ambition. The galaxy will change not through force, but through the belief of those who wield it. Hours turned to days, and the Deceiver's plan unfolded with painstaking patience. Horus's council became a theater in which every word, every suggestion, every subtle act of praise or caution was a carefully placed brick in the foundation of doubt. Loyalty could be bent, faith could be questioned, ambition could be nurtured, and obedience could be reshaped into something far more potent. Devotion to a vision that was not yet known, even to those who held it in their hearts. And then came the visions, not of battle, not of conquest, but of the imperceptible truth of the galaxy. Erebus whispered them to Horus in subtle moments, cloaked in counsel. He spoke of betrayal, of the fragility of empires, of the weakness hidden within obedience. He did not command, he did not threaten, he merely hinted, suggested, planted ideas like seeds that would grow in silence. The War Master listened, and for the first time, questions flickered in his mind. Questions that would fester into certainty, certainty that would grow into a storm. The bond between man and emperor, though strong, was not immutable. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, sensing the slow unfolding of a plan so meticulous, so patient, that its effects would span generations. By the time the fleet departed for its first campaign under Horus's command, the seeds of betrayal were already sown. The Deceiver's work was nearly complete. Every lieutenant, every soldier, every primarch, touched by his counsel, carried the spark of ambition, of doubt, of potential heresy. The galaxy would see heroes, victories, and the glory of war. But beneath it all, the subtle hand of Erebus guided the stars toward a path only he could perceive. As the ships vanished into the void, the Deceiver remained on Terra, observing the endless horizons of the Empire. He knew that patience was the ultimate weapon, that influence outweighed strength, and that the War Master, radiant though he was, would soon walk a path of his own making, shaped not by the Emperor, but by subtle manipulation and carefully nurtured ambition. And so, the first chapter of Heresy was written not in fire and blood, but in whispers, in shadows, in the careful shaping of trust. The galaxy would see the wars, the battles, the betrayals, but none would ever see the hand that guided them. That hand was Erebus, the Deceiver, the patient, the master of shadows, the architect of the fall of the stars. And in the quiet moments, when the stars burned cold and the fleets were far from Terra, Erebus smiled. The game had begun. The first domino had fallen, and soon the galaxy itself would bend beneath the careful weight of ambition, deceit, and inevitability.